Hey there, and welcome to the Office of the IT Guy, the show where we celebrate the people and talk about the technology that's changing our world. I am your host, Eric the IT Guy Hendricks, and my mission here is to share a love for open source and help build a stronger community. I'm so thankful that you tuned in because the office is now open. Hey there, and welcome to the IT Guy Show. I'm your host, Eric the IT Guy Hendricks. This is episode 7, and today we're going to be talking about battling burnout with an interesting twist. We're going to talk about how to battle burnout with a sword. You heard that right? Yes, we're talking about swords, and not just the kind you build in Minecraft. So I'm really excited. Got connected with an amazing couple on LinkedIn, and we've been talking back and forth. And so without my usual just kind of blabbing on about these two, why don't I bring them in? We'll do some introductions, and I think you'll love them just as much as I have. So welcome to the IT Guy Show, Jen and Bryan. Welcome to you both.
Hello.
Hello.
So I threatened in sound check to throw Bryan under the bus, but Jen, ladies first, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us what you do for fun.
Sure. So by day, I am a lowly mental health therapist, and by night, I'm building this program where we help people to battle personal and professional burnout with swords and lightsabers, if they like.
Right. And I'm Bryan Horton. By day, I am IT person, technical ranks that I came up through led me into management, and I've been in management for a while, and that's my day job. My evening, we work on our program. I used to teach sword fighting in the past, and it's one of my joys.
And so, Bryan, I kind of gathered that you're one of us. You came up through the desktop support sysadmin type ranks, right?
Correct.
Awesome. One of my people.
Yes,
that's how we met.
we actually met that way at a
Gosh,
university.
you tell.
I was it was an interesting job. My first IT job was actually kind of help desk, yes, but we also worked on the back end, Exchange server, file servers, all that good stuff. And Jennifer also happened to work there, and she had me at the first line that she said, which was, "I'm working on evolving teleportation." I knew she was my person.
That's awesome. But you're going to say, "Can you fix my printer?"
No, everyone started asking me to fix their printer once they found out I was dating the IT guy.
Ah, yes, I know exactly how that feels. My wife throws me under that particular bus on a regular basis. Oh, you're having trouble with XYZ? My husband can fix it. It's like, I'm off the clock. I don't know anything about technology.
Or people ask about phones and other things. My path led me into infrastructure. Yes. Petabytes of storage does not mean I know about your phone.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, there's certain operating systems I refuse to support anymore just because it's been so long since I've had one of my own. It's like, your Android phone, it's best
Yes.
effort. Sorry. So, as a bit of a personality enthusiast myself, I've got to ask what. So we've got therapists, mental help by day, and we've got IT management. I imagine there's some interesting dynamics in your all's household. What's that like?
I think it's a constant learning experience for the both of us. And sometimes that's really fun, and sometimes it's frustrating, but we're in it to win it. So at least that's how I see it.
Yes, fascinating, frustrating, and fun. I would definitely use those 3 Fs. And what is so fantastic, though, is my wife is such a wonderful, insightful person, but she comes at it from different angles. than I do a lot of times. Sometimes we're lockstep. Other times it's like, wow, you got there way before I did with my logic, you know. um, and then other times it's like, no, the logic is here, and so it's interesting. It's interesting. I think we complement and enhance each other quite well.
Mm. I mean, it's huge. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I hadn't met my spouse. We've been together for over 5.5 years, been married for over 3, and I wouldn't be here if she hadn't encouraged me. Because I was IT operations for years.
Right.
Uh,
Mhm.
Went from desktop support to server administrator to specializing on this really cool thing, Linux, and if I didn't have her there backing me up, I would never have started attending conferences, launching podcasts, never would have gotten out of IT operations and into nowadays it's technical marketing, but really this kind of IT advocacy type work that I do. And I have never been more fulfilled in my career. And I try to give her as much credit as I can, but at the same time, she doesn't let me forget that I am where I am because of her.
Oh, that's fantastic. A supporting partner is awesome. You know, that is so wonderful, and we try to support each
Right.
other.
Well, I
We
just
are
think,
on each other's team.
yeah. Well, in IT in general, part of what brought us into wanting to do work with the tech sphere to start, because we could have started anywhere.
Mhm.
The things that I know through therapy are applicable to anybody. However, what I know because of being married to Brian is that so many people in IT are having to take on such a load mentally and emotionally, and they're not being supported.
Mhm.
Absolutely not. And that's what's been a big driver for us. And so I'm excited, not only about what we can bring to the space, but how we can help open up more conversation about it. That's part of what
Mm.
brought me to you, because I know, Eric, that you particularly had talked about burnout. That's when I
Mhm.
first, found you on the internet. The more people that can talk about this, the better, because we cannot leave our IT workforce unsupported.
Mhm.
It's going to cause it to collapse, and too much depends on it right now.
Yes.
Everything depends on it right now.
Hmm.
You can't walk to anywhere or interface with anything without there being a computer chip somewhere.
Right. And I lived a lot of what Jennifer's talking about. I've seen ho- supporting end users. Yes, I've done that. There's its own level of frustration. Trying to get all the back end tech working and solving problems and all that. And then when I was promoted into management, that was a whole new level, because now you're dealing with people and
Mhm.
learning how to do all that. And you know, I was some things I handled well, some things I didn't handle well, and stress, burnout, and bringing work home, and all those different things. It was so we lived it.
Mhm.
We knew it, and that was a space that we knew, is the IT space. Um, and you mentioned earlier when we were talking about having lots of stories. Yes, we have stories to to tell on the IT side. I do, about lots of different things and that I've seen, both good and bad. Uh,
Yeah, you definitely develop some scars because one of the biggest things you can do is time box yourself to where this is work time and this is not work time. But when you're in IT operations in particular, as a lot of my audience is, uh, you don't have that benefit. Like I tell a
Right.
story frequently about being at a family birthday party, and I just ordered a steak from a very, very nice steak restaurant and was so excited about it, but missed dinner because I got paged out because that was my weekend on call. And so you can't always just turn it off.
right.
Um, but as we'll get into here in a few minutes, there's ways to work around that and ways to mentally reset. But first, I've got to ask. I've got to ask the origin story here because I can picture therapists working with people all day. I can picture IT management and kind of how that might look. Um, very typical. But the two of you kind of took a different approach to life together. Uh, so what was it that you two were kind of on this path together? You're on each other's teams, as you said, and and all of a sudden you decided that this is a problem. We need to fix it. We'll talk about the how here in a minute, but
Right.
what was that like triggering moment of this is a problem and we're uniquely positioned to fix it?
So the real moment happened, like the whole like, whoa, with the clouds and the sunshine, when we were taking a walk around a mall during an anime festival. And I was talking about my desire to do more on a non-clinical level, which means basically not doing treatment. So for folks that don't
Mm,
understand therapist and licensure, I can only treat people when they meet criteria for DSM, plus there's an impairment of functioning. That's a person that requires treatment. But
mhm,
that's not the majority of people. Most people don't need treatment level of help. And so I wanted to be able to reach more people, plus not be stuck one to one talking all day. I wanted to do
mhm.
something more fun. I was kicking this around with Brian, and he just said something along the lines of, well, wouldn't it be cool if we could do this with swords? And I said, well, of course you could do it with swords because I know all about experiential work. And so then he's like, what do you mean? And I just start explaining this to him, like really emphatically as we're walking around in circles.
So you're right, and it kind of expanded from there. And on many walks, we'll talk about things at work and a few things. We try to limit work talk, but sometimes we would talk about people's growth. And I love helping people and helping maybe supervisors get past some growing pains and all that, kind of in a mentoring role. And Jennifer would explain, it's like, oh, well, this is what's going on in the mind, and
Mm.
this is, and we've had those previous talks, and it just all really just came together there, especially with the sword thing, because, wow, it was just a million ideas. We had to really pare things back to make it
I know that feeling.
workable.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can be traced back to pretty much a moment. We don't know exactly what time and really what day. I don't remember. Maybe you do, Jennifer, but I can remember the moment then.
So how did you get into swords? Because you mentioned being like a
Yeah,
sword instructor, and trust me, I've looked around Kansas City to try this out for myself at this point.
right, right. So, I, personally, I've always had a love of swords as a child. Think, King Arthur, the
Mm.
knights, Conan, Sinbad. Maybe that's dating me a little bit, but so I've loved all that. Okay, but there was a time in my life where I was going through a rough patch in life, and a friend of mine said, "Hey, the local college is teaching a sword fighting class. Let's go to it." And I was like, "Well, I guess." Oh,
And you're not talking about fencing. You're talking about actual sword
Mhm.
play.
correct. Medieval sword fighting, sword and shield. You can't see, but I'm holding a shield. See the shield and see the sword, and which is what the class was mainly teaching. So I took the class, and it was great because I had all this heaviness in my life, and I was feeling I feel like I was losing at life. I'll be
Mm.
honest, and but I could go into the class, and I'm learning something new, and it's something that I'm enjoying, and it's something that um, I felt like that maybe I could be good at it to start off with, but I wasn't. I had to learn. I had to practice. I had to go through all the things, and I- it just changed my mind state.
Mm.
It was while I was there, and it was just different. And so I would come out of class, and my problems would still be there, but I was different,
Mm.
and that felt good. Um, so fast forward a little bit, I loved it so much, and I wound up being pretty decent at it. And the teacher asked me to help teach the class, and I'm like, "Hey, I will do that." And so we taught many semesters of sword fighting at this college. I
Mm.
l- so I loved watching the students come in with the maybe preconceived notions, or maybe they're shy, or maybe they don't have confidence, and you see their skills grow. You see their eyes light up. We would do dueling, And when they land that shot on the instructor, the first time, because hey,
Right.
I don't let people hit me. You have to earn it.
Mhm.
That lights people up, and by the end of the class, you've made new friends that have a different interest and a different looking at life. It really helped me through a rough patch in my life, and I know from personal stories it helped a few other the students through rough patches in their life by changing your mindset for a little bit, and you're engaging physically and mentally on a different level with different things. Um, so I've held on to the love of swords and sword fighting. My kids have gone through some of that. We've got actual swords and sliced up some pumpkins and some different things, watermelons. And fast forward to kind of today, I'm excited all over again. I can feel that same level of
Hmm.
excitement because we're learning lightsabers, and it's a lot the
Mhm.
same as medieval sword play in a way, but there's a whole bunch of things that are totally different. So I'm having to unlearn a few uh, things. But so long story short, that's kind of how I got into. I've always had a love of swords, but taking that class and how it made me feel was just it was just on a different level, and bringing that to other people along with helping with things like burnout. That's I don't know. That's just become a passion. As you can see, I'm kind of getting excited just talking about it. So
And I can, for those of you listening to the audio podcast, I can attest the amount of hand gesturing has increased by about 47.6% in the last 2 minutes. So yes.
so that's the nutshell version.
So some people get into yoga, some people do martial arts, some people do mindfulness meditation type things, and you just pull out a sword. I mean, makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah. Well, not everybody can jive with yoga. Yoga requires a level of vulnerability. I mean, we have good studies behind what yoga can do, but I have clients over on my therapy side that absolutely at this point in their life cannot do yoga.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And my
Uh,
cardio and my flexibility lack
Mhm.
for
hey,
for
I did try yoga, Eric, and give it another shot because it can be good. It was difficult, but slowly it won me over.
So we've had this moment at an anime conference at a mall, and we're doing labs, and so you combine these different ideas and all the leadership training that you've taken, all the books that you've read didn't quite cut it. So what was kind of what did the first season of this idea look like?
So I want to speak to one thing. Yes, getting training, especially in management and a lot of leadership training. Do they try to make it exciting? Yes, but it's boring. A lot of the books, there are books that are better than others, but a lot of the books and training material was boring and or dull, as in the first part of our company. And the swords we felt like would bring a spice to things. Obviously, we have a passion for what we do, and that's where kind of the daring comes in from the with dull made daring, and that's uh, yes, we wanted to get past boring things and add a little excitement, add some fun to the training.
Okay. Well, I'm going to step in here as the ADHD partner and say that yes, this started in part as the boring piece, but also just a part of engagement. I had been placed into management not on a tech side, but I think in a similar vein of not being able to have training resources and support that really resonated with me. And bless it, I tried. I tried to read so many books. I tried to do all the things, and it wasn't helping me. And I will admittedly tell you, I went down in a ball of fire. To the point where I didn't even want to take supervisees anymore, even for just
Hmm.
licensure to that level, which is bad because, in my profession, we're supposed to want to train up the next generation. And I'm like, no,
Right.
don't feel like I can do that. So I think as we started thinking through this and getting all these ideas, it just became, how can we make something that's just different and really going to speak to, my therapy brain says, how do we use behavioral activation and fun and things that we have research behind, like games, sports, whether that's esports or whether that's a physical sport. These things do work. How can we use that? Because we know they work, but nobody's using it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And go ahead, Brian.
I was going to add there that's swords. That's a big element to what we do. But yes, we are nerds and tech nerds at heart. So we do draw things from we like computer games, board games, all kinds of games. D&D, fun things that we like to do, and our people we pull from those elements to maybe enhance a point or to connect with people at a deeper level. It's kind of like you find that common ground in some interests, and you can start there and do a lot of things.
So I was going to I was going to have you introduce your business venture, but I want to dive into that. Like I said, I promised you tangents within tangents within
Let's
tangents.
do it. Let's do all the tangents.
So so Jen actually reached out to me out of the blue on LinkedIn, said she saw my website and saw that I'd talked a little bit about burnout, and so of course that triggers this counter move of, okay, who is this person and what is she talking about?
Right.
So some healthy LinkedIn stalking and reading posts and that kind of thing. And something that really sucked me in, it's like that moment when you're going to end up doing something, no matter how much you try and change your mind. Because I don't usually take cold calls, quote unquote. And but like you talked about D&D, and there's a blog post about using Minecraft to study work habits. So I want to kind of unpack that, because
let's do it.
Like I told you guys that I'd been missing D&D, that it had been a while. So over the last few weeks since we last chatted, I've got a group of like 5, and I drew the short straw. So I'm going to be DMing this, but we're going to go through Tyranny of Dragons at our house over the next, hopefully, a couple of years. I hope this turns out to be a big epic campaign. So, but you talked about using Minecraft as sort of a work study. Why don't we unpack that a little bit?
Sure. What's really awesome about games is that, we can be, I think, more authentic when we're able to be someone that's not ourselves. And we also have permission to play around with parts of ourselves that we maybe don't have permission to play around with out in the real world. Because there may be consequences to that we can't deal with. So let's see what happens in the game. The other thing is, game really operates as great metaphor for us to unpack things. And we don't even know we're unpacking it. So when I talk about using gaming as like a learning lab or for some other form of self-discovery, we're not talking about showing up and going, let me focus on what I'm going to learn out of this game today, because that'll ruin it, right? Nothing faster to ruin it than make it like work. But when you can take time to reflect about your gaming when you're not gaming, you'd be surprised what you will learn.
To extend a little bit what Jennifer was talking about, especially back in the 90s, there was this little game released called StarCraft. Maybe some people remember
That's
it.
what I was going to
bring up. Played so much.
I was about to challenge the entire audience. Anybody that wants to play StarCraft 2, let's bring it on. My Protoss my Protoss game is still strong.
Oh,
I tried it
that's
just
awesome.
2 weeks ago.
He was Zerg. He's the Zerg king.
So I played StarCraft 1 a pretty good bit, and even was ranked in the ladder for a little while and all that. But I loved to have different accounts that I could go on to be different play styles, different personas and stuff. And Jennifer, you were mentioning about you're able, permission to be someone else. I was giving myself permission to be someone that tried some different things, or played as this other person for a little while or whatever. So it was a lot of fun. I'm not as good at StarCraft 2, so you probably will take me. I will hand you that. But D&D is another great example. You
Mhm.
could be a
Mhm.
barbarian that is, gets triggered at the simplest of words and beats head in, or you could be the sly caster, or you could be the slinking thief. You can't be those in real life. So it gives
Well,
you
not
permission.
legally anyway.
Not legal. Well, what's fascinating though, I love to, and I do this in therapy with folks as well, if I find out that they play, to talk to them about the kind of characters they're attracted to playing, because a lot of times we get called to doing very similar things
Hmm.
and then asking ourselves why.
Mhm.
And then can you even take on the challenge of playing something that's the total opposite of what you're used to playing? We've done that with each other lately. What we've been playing Grim Dawn, and like he tends to like to do like DPS spellcaster stuff, and I tend to want to be a melee beat your face in type of person. And so we're like, okay, we're going to challenge ourselves, and
Mhm.
we have to play as the opposite.
Hmm.
So I
And the
became the
conversations, yeah, we've had
yeah
out of this have been fascinating.
yeah I became the ground pounder, as we called it, and she was doing the DPS, and it was interesting. And Grim
So
Dawn
that's
is a game sort of like Diablo, if
okay.
for people who may
I'm,
not know what that is, but give it a
I
check.
was honestly going to go look it up.
It's really a great game. Enjoyed a lot. It's more like Diablo 2. So.
Yes, sir. So this is completely off script, but this is what I promised. Uh, you make an interesting point. As I think through sort of the ideal character that I've wanted to play in a long running D&D campaign, and it seems like every time it's a mini campaign, that's the one that goes on for a year, but the long running campaigns always are the ones that peter out after a couple of months. So I've always wanted this very deeply intelligent wizard, someone who's very utility, a little bit of focus on combat, because I mean, you walk into a room, cast fireball, and drop the mic and walk back out, But as you were talking, I kind of made a connection there with my transition out of IT ops and
Mhm.
into technical marketing. Um, I always envisioned myself as the guy who had six monitors, and I could read machine code like some people read English, and I had this idea of what my career would be like, that I was going to be this deep technical person, that my two choices were I give up and go into management, no offense, Brian, um, or I get in deeper, eventually be that systems architect, that enterprise architect that builds everything out and can tell you what kernel modules do at the deepest of levels. And turns out that was a completely wrong impression of my capabilities and my personality. And that's why I struggled with things like anxiety, depression, burnout for so many years, was I was trying to force myself into this role that I thought I was wired to be. Whereas instead, I'm very, very happy being very thin, very wide. I talk about an entire Linux operating system for a living, um, but you get in too deep, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. I have engineers for that, but I'm
Mhm.
very, very happy going out, getting people excited. That's my personality type. I'm an activator. If you follow like Clifton Strengths, I learn something new. Learning is one of my biggest skills. I learn something and I go out and I get other people excited about this thing that I learned, which is why I do content creation, because I learn something and then write about it or record videos about it.
Mhm.
And now I get to do that for a job. It blows my kids' minds that their dad gets to play on YouTube and get paid for it. So, uh, but it was interesting that maybe I need to apply maybe my next campaign. I need to take a more charismatic character and see where that goes. Just because I had an incorrect assumption about my career might make for some really fun engagement in like a D&D setting
Mhm.
if I picked a character that matched.
Yeah,
Yes, and then
I encourage you.
imagine yeah, well, seriously, not only that, but the experience that you have being out of that comfort zone and then being able to reflect on the emotions that you have, being able to reflect on the thoughts that you have. I mean, this could lead to like some really deep work,
Mhm.
all while you're having fun, which is
Mhm.
why I love to use games, because unless you're like a ragey gamer, there's not that much on the line.
Right. And there is an aspect to gaming, though. I mean, if you're going into games and you're just vegging out, that that may not
That's
be.
different.
Yeah, that's different. But if you're engaging in the game and you're having fun and you're it's helping you work through things, or it's helping you to have that little bit of let's change how I'm feeling at this moment type feelings. That's the good side. There are obviously people that can get addicted to gaming and some different things like that. Uh, but yeah, we're talking about the fun gaming.
Right. Yeah. I still cringe when I think about the number of hours I have in like EVE Online back in the day, and of course Steam tracks all that. It just makes me cry a little bit. But so we took this concept of gaming and sword play, and we've mashed it up with we've mashed it up with professional development, with maybe a touch of therapy in there. So introduce your all's business, because even the name itself made me smile when we met.
So we called it dull made daring because what we want to do is take things that tend to be dull for a lot of people and flip it on its head, just like we talked about changing up your D&D character, and then see what happens when we do that.
Yeah, and by the way, that has become a litmus test for us when we have ideas. Is that dull or daring? Where's the daring aspect? How can we bring that in? But go ahead, Jennifer.
What? No, I think just being true to myself.
Mhm.
As a person with ADHD, I'm not going to stick with it if it's not interesting.
Mhm.
If we can't change it up, if there's not something to be learned from it, which is why when he brought up the swords and I was like, dude, that's fantastic, because like you're not becoming a sword master in 1 week, and you can like shift from sword to sword to sword. So I guess to get down to what the program is that we're working on right now,
Mhm.
basically what we're wanting to do is help people who are challenged by the people side of IT. A lot of times when we're working frontline tech ranks, we don't have to interface with people as much. Some people do. I mean, if you're on help desk, you're doing it all the time.
Right.
But if you have the luxury of even like maybe working from home and not having to talk to folks except maybe an occasional Teams meeting, maybe it's not so difficult for you. But the longer you're in IT, you're either going to move up and get promoted, or you're going to wind up a team lead. Something's going to happen and you're going to wind up having to interface with people more. And tech people, I say this with love, y'all can have trouble talking to each other.
Mhm.
Okay. And I don't say that as an insult. I say that as there's some different mindsets that you deal with all the time that are working against you.
Mhm.
So I'm not talking about what you were born with. I'm talking about you having to live under security mindset all the time,
Mhm.
having to live under a troubleshooting mindset all the time.
Yep.
These things interfere with your ability to communicate with one another.
Well, and I
So
think what you're getting at, and Brian backed me up on this, when you're in that IT mindset all day, it really impacts your personal relationships. Like one of the biggest things that has helped my wife and I out is she'll start talking about an issue at work, and it's like, wait, hold on, timeout. Eric's calling a timeout. Do you want me to listen to hear, or do you want me to listen because you're asking for my advice? Because either way, it's a lot of pressure off of me to not have to try and fix something and go, okay, good. I can listen. I can
exactly.
be there. I need to engage my
Absolutely.
empathy instead of sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I could fix this in 5 minutes. Please just let me fix this.
That fix it mindset the troubleshooting mindset is definitely something we've had similar moments, probably multiple times throughout our our time together, because sometimes I forget and I'm just in that troubleshooting mode. And but yes, that absolutely, that is a great example of how that mindset can creep into a personal relationship, or with kids, or
Mm.
with other friends. Yeah, sometimes you just need to be an ear.
Right.
You need to say, that sounds terrible.
Sorry to derail you, Jen, but what you were saying
Oh,
just
no, you're
resonated
fine.
perfectly with what I deal with here at home. or I guess I should say what my family deals with me.
Well, it's so common when we were talking with other IT folks as a part of just, researching if this dog could even hunt. We kept hearing the same stories over and over and over
Mm.
again of frustration, stress, feeling just constantly questioning themselves.
Mm.
Right.
Am I saying the right thing? Do I need to say that? How do I know I need to say that, but I don't know how to say it. I don't
Mhm.
want to cause problems. I want to get in trouble. How do I talk to these vendors that are driving me nuts without,
Hmm.
getting in all kinds of trouble? So many people things. And what I found was that when Brian would come home, and this validated out in other conversations, the stress was 99% of the time about the people.
Mm.
It wasn't about the tech. I mean, yeah, every so often we'd hear like, "Ah, this darn stupid server that never works is not working again."
Right.
But usually that was because the person who does the budget wasn't gonna pay for one.
Mhm.
Right. And when and if you ever draw that short straw and go into management, um, uh, then a huge part of your job becomes working with those people, and
Mhm.
that's where a lot of my personal story comes in about having to deal with, you know, hey, you're with your peers. We're all tech. We're all the same team. We've railed against the machine together, and now you are the machine. So, how do you do things like performance reviews and delegation, and how
Mhm.
do you learn to do those things as a manager? Because working with a script is logical.
Mhm.
Working with people can be a, an emotional roller coaster at times. Everybody, somebody's having a bad day, or uh, they don't agree with what you're saying. How do you sell unpopular ideas?
Mhm.
At work. So those kind of things would cause me some stress and borderline burnout at times. And
Mhm.
you know, sometimes I would handle that well, and other times not. And I learned better and better ways. And now we feel like we're in a pretty good place. There are still times that the stress gets to me, and you got to do some things. Things like being on a podcast at times can be could be a little stressful. So you practice some of the reset how you're thinking about things, and you keep going.
So, yeah, that's mainly what, we wanted to tap into was how can we make something that was specific to the issues of people working in tech with other tech people,
Right.
Mhm.
okay? Because that's unique, and a lot of stuff out there isn't really geared toward it. And then how do we do it in a way that resonates with the folks that a book or the HR training just isn't gonna cut it?
Mhm.
Right. And there are things like say time management. You could go out there and you can look at a lot of lists, and it'll tell you how to do time management, and
Mhm.
and maybe there's pointers out there for all the things that I mentioned earlier, performance reviews and all that good stuff. But how how you are feeling before that performance review, or why did somebody self-rate themselves
Mm.
at the top or at the bottom, or the different things, or why do why are you feeling either good about a person or bad about a person when their work is different than that? Dealing with those things. um, I don't really see a lot of things out there that helps you. There's not a checklist that you can go through to help with that. That's
Mhm.
a you got to come to some terms within yourself, and you've got to know yourself, and then work on understanding the people. And for me, the huge help is sometimes understanding the motivation or the why. Why do I feel this way, or why is that person
Mhm.
doing a certain thing in a certain way?
Mm.
And that's been really one of the huge eye-opening things to me. And you talked about where does that therapist viewpoint come in? that's where the therapist viewpoint comes in a lot, because explaining our tendencies as a human and how we think. That's squarely in Jennifer's ballpark there. So
Right. But what's cool about how we want to do this is that you're not coming to therapy where I'm going to
right,
explain to you stuff, right? Because
Right.
you can use a sword, you can use a lightsaber, you could use anything, honestly, right? We're gonna be honest about that. It could be anything. It could be D&D. It could be Minecraft. It could be whatever resonates with you. We love to do swords and sabers, so we're going to stay honest to that. But what we want to do is help people be able to access swords and sabers in a way that's engaging to them, and then use it to be able to do better with people stuff, because of the insight they're going to gain
Mhm.
by running a program with swords or sabers.
I love that. So what's available? What are you selling? Book series, a mailing list? What's
Okay.
how can folks? I mean, like I wish I could send this back to myself in the IT operations days, because dealing with people was one of the reasons why I went into technology, because I didn't think I wanted to deal with people.
that's
Sidebar, turned out to be the exact opposite. I love dealing with people most days, but
Mhm.
took a lot of time and effort, and dealing with imposter syndrome like every other day, going from, oh, I got this, to the next day going, I am working on some of the most public stages there are. What am I doing here? I should be locked up in the in the server room somewhere. But I can, I mean, I could just see from the videos that you have out, like out on LinkedIn and on your website. It's like, this is something I wish I had years ago. Might have saved me a few of the scars. Um, Granted, then I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, but
and that's exactly what I've said, and that's exactly what we're trying to build, is something that I would have liked to have had access to at some point before I did all my trial and error.
So basically what we've got, so we have the free video, and we have it for your listeners, Eric, that they can go to. It'll be at www.dullmadedaring.com/Eric. It'll walk them through how to use a saber or sword, and they have one, we promise, that they can use to get their brain to kind of be quiet, calm down. If you're feeling a little stressed out and overthinking today, that's what this
Mhm.
video is for. Walk it through real quick with you. See if it resonates with you. If it does, we're waitlisting our program right now. We've got a 6-week live workshop and mentoring program that's going to begin in early 2025, but we're going to open up registration in winter of 2024.
Okay.
And that's going to address basically all the stuff that we talked about today, these people issues.
Mhm.
And we're going to help people craft a way to use swords and sabers in a way that fits them, while
Right.
also providing collaborative support from a small set of peers and collaborative support from us.
Hmm.
Right.
And Brian, you feature in this video showing off your sword skills.
There's a few videos out there of of doing a few things, and it's if Jennifer says, let's make a video with a sword, she doesn't have to twist my arm or anything.
Sure, you're very reluctant to get involved with that.
I will tell you though that making the video was the Stress Slayer video was we did things like that, similar to that beforehand, but I use that all the time now. I go through that several times, not all the time, not a day, several times a week. So it's fun, and it does work. I don't know the science behind the mind thing, but boy, it
That's a
does
great, you
work.
don't have to.
Mm-mm.
If people want science, I'm more than happy to, they can find me and I will send them sciencey things. Now, have we done direct studies on lightsaber? Probably not. There's a ton of studies out there behind fun, behind physical activity. I know we talked about that. And one of the things that I really love about this program is for a while, Brian and I were stuck talking about it because we were hemmed in thinking, oh, we're going to have to pick whether it's a saber or a sword. We're going to have to pick what type of swordplay we're teaching. Is it going to be choreography? Is it going to be battle? And then one day it just kind of opened up. Why don't we just let people choose what they want to do and we empower them to be able to pursue that path in the program?
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing what they want.
Right.
I love it. So we've got a few minutes, and I like to provide a sort of practical aspect to podcasts. I know I can kind of veg out and just binge podcasts just to put something in my brain, but I usually like to take something and package it practically. So one of the things that started this conversation between you all and myself was this topic of burnout. So how about for a sort of a practical something they can take home and kind of whet their excitement for like your program is how would one of my listeners know if they're getting close to being burnout? What are some of the warning signs?
So since there's no official DSM diagnosis here, what I like to tell people to do is number one, check their energy flow. Just kind of monitor, hey, is my energy drastically going up when I'm at work? Now, I might not want to go to work, but when I get there, ooh, it's go time. I got to go. I could go, right? And slam back a few monsters and we get this taken care of. And then the second I get home, boom, I'm dropping off like a rock. Maybe when I was commuting home, I thought, maybe I could go to the gym today or something, and that totally falls off. Can be a sign. Another thing is going to be your irritability. If you're finding yourself more irritable than usual, and if you don't have good insight to that, ask the people around you.
Right. And that was a big warning sign for me is irritability. Yeah. And ask the people around you. They sometimes know better than you do.
Usually, probably.
I think another thing you want to look at, I tell folks there's a difference between being diligent about your job and being obsessed with your job. It's okay and appropriate for you to want to be diligent. There are a lot of things that you all deal with in tech that require you to be diligent. It does not require you to be obsessed. If you cannot let it go, no matter what you do, you're trying to play the game and you can't stop thinking about work to the point that it's interfering with your game, to the point that it's all you can talk about with your spouse or your friends, there's probably a problem there. One of the final things I like for people to look at is, are they isolating? Are your social connections dropping off? Do you not really want to leave the house? Unless it's to go to work, which you're not really thrilled about. But again, once you get there, it's go time. Let's go, go, go. You suddenly have all the energy in the world. So because some of these things can kind of trail closely to depressive symptoms, if you suspect this in yourself, I would also run it by a doctor just to be safe.
Right. One thing that for me, especially, I told you, irritability is one of the big things for me. A lot of that was because the fulfillment wasn't there anymore. Like, I'm doing my job, and I may even be doing a great job, but it doesn't feel satisfying or fulfilled, and that would just enhance my irritability.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I can totally relate to that. And one of my go-tos was to continue to press harder. It's like,
yes,
if I can punch through this barrier, if I can accomplish this project, then I'll feel like I've arrived. And sadly, whether it's IT operations or some kind of marketing motion, you never arrive. There's no utopia that you get to. And that's what I tell a lot of my sysadmin friends that are worried about automation is, what if I automate myself out of a job? There'll always be something else to work on. And there's just no point in just burying yourself in work until you're done, because you'll never be done.
Right. Spend some of that time learning new tech and all that, because like you mentioned, you love to learn. I think that resonates with our people, and that's part of the joy of the job is learning new things. I think if you can get kind of stuck wanting to do the same thing every time, and I don't know if that's necessarily a symptom of burnout, but it can be a symptom of you kind of growing stale in your career or in
Hmm.
your way of thinking.
Well, and I think I mentioned in the pre-show that I'm in the middle of a job transition right now, um, and so I've got ebooks, I've got
Oh, yeah.
multiple notebooks, and on one of my other monitors, I actually have a Kubernetes cluster that I've just been playing with, because I've been a Linux systems administrator for years, and that's part of who I am. It's what I've
Mhm.
been focused on, but that's not all that I am. And in fact, Jen, you made a comment about, working a full-time job, having a family,
Mhm.
even having some fur kids who just walked in behind me. Um, but I do this because it's almost like chronicling my own journey for others. A lot like you guys came up with swords and defeating burnout. This is kind of one of those things that I'm good with a microphone. Um, and I can't believe that I've been doing this type of work for, gosh, 6 years, 7 years now, between podcasting, conference talking, that kind of thing. And this is just a chance that I can give back. In fact, when I rebranded and relaunched my podcast as the IT Guy Show, the idea was Kubernetes, Docker, containers, automation, cloud, all these things are huge. And don't even get me started on the AI front.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
all these things are so important in IT operations. But if you're just a Linux sysadmin, how do you get from there to here? And so part of like the sort of the more deep technical side, I'm hoping to kind of build a journey through these episodes to go from Linux is your thing, but now Linux is Linux because you can go on any cloud platform and deploy any type of Linux you want. So is it really so important? Um, Ignore the red fedora on my shirt. But is it really that important with Linux? And then your boss comes and says, "All right, we want this Kubernetes thing, and we want it next week." Um, well, I don't know how to get there, because I've
Mhm.
installed Kubernetes a dozen times in the last 10 years, and I never get past that point of, all right, it's installed. I can run kubectl, and I can see that I've got servers that are running and they're ready. Now what?
Mhm. Yeah.
That was a
Um,
tangent. We were talking about burnout.
but you see, what you did there though is a little bit of your passion came through, and where you can work your passion into your job, and that to me, hearing more about what you've done, that's exactly what you did. You took some of the things that you had a passion for, and you're working them into it, and that's that's what we try to do as well. My fulfillment at work a lot of times would come from this wonderful script, or ooh, it took 1 week to do this. Now it takes 5 hours. These kind of
Hmm.
things. Now I feel much more satisfied helping people at my work and other places help themselves get through things.
Hmm.
I learned a long time ago, if the teach a man to fish type
Hmm.
thing.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, don't give them the fish, teach them the fish. But so that's what I like to do, and what that has helped me, as a manager some too, is you find the people that are interested in getting on that improvement loop for themselves and in the
Hmm.
career. And when I'm around those people, I, I feel better, and I get better, and I get a lot. I want to give back. here's all these lessons that I learned here. How can I get that down to people without sounding like I'm, being holier than thou or anything like
Mhm.
that? Um, so, like you were saying, I just love to give back to people, and we just want to do that in our journey.
Mm.
We don't even want to suffer the way that we did, to be honest. Like,
Right.
That's right.
straight to the heart of the matter here. I mean, when we were doing validation interviews with IT folks, especially when they were talking with me at first, because I am coming from a non-IT space, and I think
Mm.
they would also know as a therapist, and so they might feel a little cautious. But after it was clear that I really heard what they had to say and that I was a safe person to talk to, so many folks in IT are suffering, and they're having to suffer kind of silently
Mhm.
and act like everything's just fine, and it's
Mhm.
not just fine.
Well, the expectation is that's your job. That's what you're
Mhm.
supposed to do, and that's not healthy.
No.
Right. And sometimes mental health in general, it can mean a lot of things to a lot of people, but
Mhm.
in some areas it can be stigmatized. Well, mental health is also, it's about being more fulfilled, happier, uh, not getting into dark places, and really your enjoyment of life goes up if your mental health is better.
Mhm.
And prioritizing that is one of the things that I had to do. I mean, I was there with that work first mindset. Hey, Jennifer, let's go by the data center for just a minute so I can
Oh my
look at this one
gosh.
thing. you know.
We still make jokes about that. I mean, years later, he'll be like, "Do you wanna go to the data center for 1 minute?" I'm like, "Yeah, no."
Those kind of things. So you have to prioritize. You have to prioritize yourself, your mental health at some point. Some people realize that they need to maybe there's a physical aspect, and they prioritize their physical health. And kudos to those folks. Um, but mental health is arguably more important.
Well, they're
Uh,
intertwined.
Mhm.
they
I'll
are
Oh, for
I'll
sure.
jump
intertwined.
in there. We have we have such strong evidence with physical activity now, and I think people tend to, put that in a little silo and think it's all just, "Oh, I have to go to the gym." Whatever movement works for you, which is
Mhm.
part of the reason we incorporated swords,
Right.
because it is physical motion.
But not only swords your way.
Swords
So
your way,
Right.
right.
yes.
Mhm.
But I mean, the research behind movement, period, is so strong for mental health. I think we're getting to a point where I'm hopeful they're going to allow doctors to just write a script to
Mm.
do it. The evidence is that strong. A lot of folks want to line it with, I don't know, weight loss or something. It's not that strong for weight loss.
Mhm.
It's super strong for mental health.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, to your point, I don't think it's any coincidence that around the time that I was making the shift from IT operations into, I started with technical sales, so sysadmin to solutions architect. I don't think it's any coincidence that I was able to make that transition mentally and career wise, but because at the same time actually was on a tear of just I lost 20 pounds. I stopped drinking pop every day. I was working out. I found out that I still hate cardio, but I love strength training. Like
Oh,
I'm five
yes.
foot four
Yes.
and not physically imposing, but at my peak I could bench press twice my body weight, and
Wow.
that was really awesome. Granted, kids, COVID, and life and everything. I've put 18 of those back on, but as part of this job transition, I'm trying to build it into this transition that I get back to the gym, get back to that strength training because I felt so much better. I look so much better. And, like I said, then at that time when I made that transition, career wise, I was making that physical transition as well. And I think the physical and mental benefits from getting into good physical shape gave me the energy and the confidence boost I needed to make that difficult transition at work.
Right. Right. And with the strength training, you get these incremental wins, and
Hmm.
you're learning
Mhm.
form. You're being able to do some things, and it helps your confidence. It's getting you to a goal that you wanted to reach, and Yes, it's a physical activity that,
Hmm.
it's, I'll go back to swords. It's like swords, same thing. You can do that, but it's also any activity, as Jennifer was saying earlier. There's benefits definitely there.
Well, he knows I started strength training. I didn't understand how good it was going to be. And right around the time I started, there was a major study released that said that for long term depression prevention and alleviation, lifting heavy weight for women was the number one activity that you could do.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
Yeah.
And I am not a neuroscientist, so I cannot tell you about the chemical function. But what I can tell you is that on days when I lift, I have more energy. My mood
Mhm.
is fantastic. I feel calmer. It does wonders. So I'm ready to become the tank that I play in games.
She can already hit pretty dang hard with a sword too. So she gets some guns on her. She's gonna.
Yeah, Dan, you better watch out.
So, any closing thoughts? Anything you want to leave our viewers with?
I think for me, I just want to leave them with you've got to do something to have fun.
Right.
You've got to.
I'm going to echo that. Do something to have fun, and sometimes you may have to look into what you think is fun, because maybe sometimes you just gotten into a rut, and what you thought you liked doing is not really what you like doing.
Mhm.
And if you can't think of something, try something new. Do strength training if you've never done strength training. Do a D&D campaign if you've never done a D&D campaign. Buy a new board game. We did this the other day, and a few times. You get a new board game, one of these complicated ones that takes you a long time to figure out, and figure it out. If you don't like it, then don't stick with it. But try
Right.
something new if you don't have a go-to fun thing, and look for those signs of burnout, because that it's real, and it can affect your job performance and your mental health. But more than that, it can affect your relationship to maybe the people that are closest to you. So definitely be on the sign, look for the signs of burnout, and get that fun aspect of something in there to help put you in a different mind state.
Well, I tell you what I'm going to do. Renaissance Fest is going on right now
Oh,
here in Kansas
yay.
City, so I think I might go talk to some of the actors and see where they learned to sword fight.
Right, right.
Definitely. So you can make your swordplay plan.
There you go.
Yes,
Yeah,
there you
Yeah.
go.
exactly. Hit the gym, get the strength training back, because at 5'4", I'm probably not one to wield a great sword, but
Okay. Well, so cool thing is, if you've got people that are interested in swords, and then if they hear you say something like great sword and they're thinking like they're mobility limited or weight limited,
Mhm.
lightsabers are a great option.
There you go. And I'm
Right.
a huge nerd to boot, so that works too.
Right. And, there's different styles, the two-handed swords, one-handed sword. There are the rapiers, or the fencing swords. Um, hey, a battle axe will work.
There you go.
And I've used a lot of those different ones, and there is something about holding that two-handed sword that is pretty special.
It's
And
cool. Yeah.
the lightsaber kind of scratches that itch a little bit. It's more like a katana, if you've ever
Yeah.
wielded a katana. And so yeah, look at some different things. We do have a few links on our Discord that has some, which you can get to
Yes. If
from our
if
site.
they go and get their free video from the link, we'll send them an email that will have the Discord in it. It'll probably
right.
be in their second email. We're not going to email you to death. We swear. I tell you explicitly how many you're going to get. And
I think
then,
I'll have to go double check that email for the
yeah.
Discord link, because I don't think I'm in your all server. So
Okay.
we'll have
Yeah,
to
come on
exchange
over.
Discord links.
Yeah. There's a few links there to some different types of swords, and some different places where there's like some how to do some sword play resources, anywhere from medieval learning how to do dueling, hitting each other as hard as you can, to choreography,
Mhm.
some different things. So there's a few helpful links to get you started if you if you want to look there.
Yeah, and Brian will always just talk to you about it. If you don't want to read through the
I,
links, just talk to him. He'll
I
tell you
am
about it.
I'm having to I'm having to pause and because yes, I could talk about swords for a long time.
So call to action is go join the Discord and engage Brian in talking about swords. That way Jen
Sure.
gets a break.
leave some messages and we'll get to it. It's being at Cloud World, it's a little harder to get back, but yeah.
Yeah, and on that note, thank you all. Thank you both so much for joining me from Oracle Cloud World out in Vegas. You guys have had a crazy busy week already, so I really
Yeah.
appreciate you taking the time to be a part of the show.
Yeah,
And
very
Jen, thank you
enjoyable.
for reaching out. I really appreciate the chance to get connected and talk and really influence some of my thinking lately.
Oh, well, it's just my pleasure. I'm just glad that we can all give back to one another and do more for
Right.
IT folks.
Right. Yeah, same here. Thanks for having us on the show and really appreciate it. We want to you know, let's give to each other and
Hmm.
lift each other up. That
For sure.
of course, there is that Vader, lifting up of people.
Probably not
Dis
quite what you
don't
have
mean
in
it in
mind.
that way, but
Well, so my guests today are Bryan and Jen Horton from Dull Made Daring. They are on a mission to eliminate burnout with the use of a sword. So definitely go and check out the links. We'll have all of that information, their contact information, everything in the show notes below. So definitely check that out. Go sign up for the mailing list. I've gotten, I think, 2 emails already, and they both kind of a nice deterrent or a nice redirection away from the usual vendor emails and meeting requests and that kind of thing. So short videos, really informative, give you in fact the first video comes with an exercise that you can do at home. If you've got a sword, if you have a lightsaber, or if you have a stick, doesn't really matter.
Yep.
Use it, give it a try. It was a lot of fun. I felt like a dork because I'm in basically built my own studio cubicle here, and so trying to do it in front of my computer didn't work out that great, but we'll try it again in a more open space. But Jen and Bryan were my guests today. Thank you all for joining us. I know I said this was 30 minutes, y'all. I apologize. Here we are at minute number 70, but
No worries.
but we had a great conversation. Really appreciate you
Yes.
joining me, and we'll have to have you on the show again because it's obviously tech is my is sort of the the fire that I burned, but that doesn't come without learning lessons about productivity and taking care of yourself. So we'll have to have you on the
Absolutely.
show again and sometime in the future. Again, links in the show notes, and so I think so. Some call to actions: definitely like, subscribe, go join the Hortons Discord server, Dull Made Daring. The next episode of this show should be 2 weeks from when this one releases. I'll be talking to a gentleman from Google, talking about the art of continuous improvement. And you can also catch me on my other podcast, the Fedora Podcast. Excited to be contributing there as a volunteer marketer. We'll be talking about Fedora Q&A. So what happens when you write a piece of code and it doesn't just get sent directly into production? At least we hope not. So we'll talk a little bit about what Fedora Linux does to vet out code, to test things live. So definitely go over to the Fedora Podcast and catch me there. Some interesting things happening for me on the Red Hat front, so stay tuned to hear more about that. But until then, on behalf of my guests, Jen and Bryan Horton, thank you all for listening, and we look forward to catching you again next time. Thank you so much.
thanks.
Thanks.
See you next time.